Welcome back. Today's video is going to be the best eyeshadow palettes for spring. I'm very excited for this because I did do this video for the best fall palettes and the best winter palettes, so I thought I would go ahead and do this for spring as well. I'm not someone who always wears seasonal makeup, but there is something about the beginning of a season where I do get really excited for new color stories. So I thought that this would be fun to do, and I realize it's also not spring everywhere, and the weather kind of varies in general. Sometimes, it can even be pretty cold in the spring depending on where you live. But either way, I'm definitely excited for these color stories and also excited for some warmer weather as well. In the spring, I kind of imagine pastel colors, a lot of pinks, purples. I mean, again, you could wear that any season, but that's kind of what I gravitate to. So those are kind of some of the themes that you'll see here. And if you are interested, I have a lot of eyeshadow palette videos. I have a whole eyeshadow palette playlist, so you can check that out for more, and let's get into it. Let's start with Juvia's Place, and these two I do think are perfect for spring, and I did just recently rank my Juvia's Place palette, so I will link that if you did not see that. The Violets, I love this one so much, and the metallic shade I'm wearing today is this one right here. I think this is a really unique color story. I love this palette. You do also have this shade that's more of like a taupey light purple, that this one is actually pretty neutral. Yeah, I think this is a great little mini palette. I'm not that into mini palettes all that much, but this one I think is one of the best. And these shades are really unique for my collection. And also the Magic Mini. Now, I absolutely love this one. This one definitely has a lot of pastel spring colors, like this blue, this pink, this other lighter blue, this beautiful periwinkle. I love the colors in here. I mean, honestly, this is probably the most spring palette out of all of the ones that I'm sharing here today. I love this formula, and I love Juvia's Place, and I think this is one of their best. I did want to include my newest palette, which is the Urban Decay Stoned Vibes palette. I talked about in my last slow buy update that I was thinking about getting this palette, and so many of you guys told me that it was on sale, so I ended up waiting until it was on sale at Ulta, and I used my Ulta points, and I gotta say, it's a really beautiful palette. It is an interesting formula. It is very shimmery. As you can see, there's a lot of shimmers in there, but they look a little chunky when you see them in the pan, but on the eye, they're actually really finely milled. This isn't like glitter chunks, it's fine little tiny sparkles. And I do think these colors are great for the season because you do have some of these lighter pinks, lighter purples. Some of the shades are also a bit more sheer than others. They definitely work better with either your finger or a wet brush. With a dry brush, you really don't get much pigment from this formula, but this one is great. And it does have these 4 matte shades in the corners, which I actually think they're good. It's a nice formula. So I'm actually really glad that I got this because I do think that this shimmer formula is a little bit unique. And I think the colors are perfect for the season. Since I'm talking about Urban Decay, I'll just go ahead and talk about the Wired palette. Now, honestly, I would wear this palette in any season because I will randomly just get an urge to wear a really bright rainbow eye look, and that's definitely what this palette is. But you do get some pastels, like this blue here and this purple right there, which actually, I think this definitely has some unique shades that I don't have in other palettes. And this formula can be a little harder to work with. And I know that a lot of people really did not like this palette, but personally, I actually really, really like it. And like I said, the shades are more unique. These 4 here says that they're for face and body, but I have used them on my eyes and I've had no problems, but that is something to consider if you do have more sensitive eyes, that technically 4 of the shades are not supposed to be for the eye area. But yeah, this was a palette that a lot of people considered a dud, but I actually really like this one. Let me show you a more neutral palette that I do still think is seasonally appropriate, and that is the MAC Burgundy x9. Now, I could easily put this in a video about best palettes for fall as well because of the burgundy tones. There's actually a lot of light mauve shades in here that are so beautiful. Like this one, this metallic here is so beautiful. I think that's Star Violet. Yeah, that's Star Violet, which is one of their most popular eyeshadows actually. And it has Sketch, which is another one of their most popular shades. So I think the light mauve tones of this, I think are really nice for spring too. I couldn't not talk about this palette because I do think it's perfect. It is the VISEIER Boheme Dream. This is a really good formula. This is top notch, one of the best formulas ever, honestly. These are really, really metallic and beautiful, and you don't even need a wet brush. I really love this palette. So you've got these more, they're kind of pastels, but they're not that light, but they're not quite bright neon colors. Like, I mean, this green here and this pink are pretty bright, but the rest of the palette, it's kind of a subdued palette. I don't know. I think this is a beautiful spring color story. It's obviously all metallic shades, you know, so I do use this as a companion palette, but this one is great, and I really want to put this in my makeup capsule soon because I really love it. Maybe I will include that next month. This one is so, so beautiful, and I really do love these colors. Only one palette from Natasha Denona made this list, but I do think the Sunrise palette is great for spring looks because you do have some kind of more ethereal shades like this one and this one, which are duochromes. You have a bright yellow, you've got fuchsia. It's a really pretty palette. There are some more neutrals as well, like this whole column over here. This is a really great palette. I have mentioned before, formula-wise, a few of the shades are not quite as good as I would expect from Natasha Denona, but definitely not bad at all. It's still a really, really good palette, and I think, yeah, this color story screams a spring to me. A lot of people would probably consider this next palette a bit more of a summer palette, but I don't know, it's still pretty spring to me, and that is the BH Cosmetics The Weekend Festival. This was their first Weekend Festival palette. It's not around anymore. This one is a pretty bright rainbow palette, but I don't know, the colors in here are not really all that neon. It's actually more subdued than it looks at first glance. And you've got like this beautiful orange. I mean, this is a pretty bright hot pink. This blue is so beautiful. This metallic blue is one of the best metallic blues I have in my collection. This formula is really great, and this was the first palette that I bought from BH that I was really wowed by. Some of their other products I bought before this, I didn't think the formula was that great. So this, I've had this palette, I mean, this came out 3 years ago. So yeah, like I said, it's no longer available, but I know other people definitely have it, and yeah, this one is great and I really love it. Alrighty, then on to the Sigma Enchanted palette. This is definitely also gives some of those more ethereal vibes, like some of the shades in the Sunrise palette. There's a lot of duochromes in here, a lot of light mauves, pinks. This is a really, really beautiful palette. This formula by Sigma I think is great. Their mattes are really, really good. These shimmers, it definitely have some finely milled tiny little glitters, shimmers in there. So they definitely do need a wet brush, but I love this color story, and I don't really have a palette in a similar color story. This is actually really unique for my collection, and I love this one. I really wanted to include the BH Avocado Toast palette because I love this one, and it's got some beautiful like spring green shades in there. You've got this beautiful color right there, and you do have some light pinks. I really like this palette. I think it is probably one of the best formulated in my collection. It's crazy how good the formula on this palette is. These metallics don't even need a wet brush. It's crazy. I'm very impressed with this one. So I think a lot of spring greens, you know, light pinks. I think, yeah, this one definitely absolutely perfect. This next one, I don't know that a lot of people would consider it a spring palette, but I do. It is the Persona Identity 2. This one is in my makeup capsule this month, and actually so is the Avocado Toast and a couple other of these. I think this one is really, really nice. You do have this like purpley shade, this light blue, a gold, this orangey matte there. It's kind of hard to describe, but that's a really gorgeous shade. So I think this one is really, really nice. It's definitely, I don't think it's quite as springy as some of these other palettes, but I mean, a lot of the shades in here are definitely a bit neutral. So, I mean, honestly, I could wear this anytime, but I do really like this one. I have two palettes left to talk about, and they are probably two of my favorites in this whole bunch here. This is the Glam Light Caliente palette. This one is so fantastic. I really like the color selection in here. This is very colorful, but again, none of the colors are like neon bright colors. They're a bit more subdued, but the metallics in here are so, so good. This yellow gold is beautiful. This light blue is amazing. This pink is one of the most beautiful pink shimmers I have. I really do like it. The mattes in here, I've mentioned before, it's a bit more thin formula, but it's really easy to work with. And yeah, I think you could do definitely some more toned down looks. I think considering this is a bit more of a rainbow palette, it's actually not that colorful, not that bright. It's just really beautiful, and I really, really love this one. I think the color selection on this is some of the best. Alrighty, last but not least, the e.l.f. Retro Paradise. I love this palette so much. This one really surprised me because I've mentioned in other videos, the e.l.f. eyeshadow formula has really never impressed me until I bought this palette. It's so good. It really, really is. Now, the shimmers are a bit chunky, so I definitely need a wet brush with these, but I just think they're beautiful. And again, the color selection is so fun. I mean, you've got like the periwinkle shades, this beautiful green, you've got some golds, you've got warm tones. I mean, this is also a super fun summer palette, honestly. But again, I would wear this in any season. I mean, I bought this in the winter and I did wear it in the winter time because I just love these colors. And I do really like this formula. I mean, out of the e.l.f. palettes I've tried, I think the formula on this one is like by far the best compared to the others. And I just think it's a really pretty color story. You've got some neutrals, you've got some colorful shades, and yeah, this one is fantastic. Alrighty, those are my best eyeshadow palettes for spring. Honestly, I could have picked more. I felt like I have a lot that kind of go into this category. So let us know what kind of colors you like to wear this time of year. Let us know some of your favorite spring palettes. That is it. Thank you so much for watching.